Welcome to the Dag Code Podcast. This is DDS, where real fans come for real sports talk and no BS. We are your hosts, Blake Melton, Bradley Newberry, and Matthew Parker. Parker, how are things back home?
Hey, everything's great coming from you.
Nice. Doing great down here in sunny Panama. Well, not so sunny at the moment. Panama City, Florida, as you can see from the background. Bradley, how you doing, bud?
Yep. But we'll welcome everybody to our college reaction show here. We're going to go straight to Knoxville. The UT Vols coming off a 62-24 victory over Missouri. Blake, Parker, 458 yards rushing. This is the most rushing yards for any year. Parker, how impressive was this outing?
You literally stole the words out of my mouth. They're a top 10 rushing team in college football now. I mean, Evans, 156 yards. And forget about rushing. Dare I say Tennessee has a quarterback 15 of 19 against an SEC team?
Yeah. This is really, it's the first time that this Josh Heupel offense has really clicked on all cylinders. Really impressive to see the rushing yards be so high. I think that Hendon Hooker has pretty much proven this is his team at this point. And, I have nothing bad to say on offense. I really don't.
I completely believe that this is the right quarterback. As much as I wanted to see Milton throw some missiles and bombs to the guy in the seventh row, this was the right choice, Parker.
It absolutely was. I mean, 62 points. That's unbelievable for a Vols team. The Vols basketball struggles to get that sometimes. It's just 683 total yards of offense. And it's not just that. It was the defense also held Missouri to 74 rushing yards, 2 yards per attempt for their leading rushing back. 2 penalties. Just everything went absolutely perfect. This, just like Blake said, this is what it's like under Heupel against a not great team if you have a quarterback that can hit his passes.
Yeah, and you mentioned there a not great team. I do want to go ahead and point out it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, in my opinion, for the Vols. I mean, on offense, it absolutely was. Defense, again, I think the facts that we don't have enough really good SEC athletes on the defensive side of the ball really reared its head, because honestly, the only reason we beat them that bad is because they're that bad. There were a lot of drops on the Missouri side of the ball in the passing game. I mean, look, they have 322 passing yards, and they had several wide open, just outright drops. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Missouri would have ever been in the game or would have beat us, but my thing is there are still question marks on this defense that we've got to shore up, and I think the majority of the issue that we're having is due to the fact that we just don't have enough athletes on defense.
That's going to take some patience, but from all three of us, we definitely like the direction, right? So This is year one of unfortunately, what could be a slow build pending these NCAA sanctions. But I can see it as the outsider looking in. I can see the difference, and I believe I know Parker can feel it.
Absolutely. I mean, just watching them, there's hope. I mean, you can. We played these games last year towards the end of the year, and the score is reversed, and we probably don't even score a field goal. It's just. I really believed in Heupel. I was real high on him in the preseason. This is how this year is going to go. Some games are going to work out, and it's going to just look phenomenal like this. And then there's going to be some game where we just lay a giant goose egg, because it is new. It is fresh, but it is definitely trending in the right direction.
Totally agree.
Yep. I don't have anything else unless you guys have anything from post-game. Did y'all read anything else that's noteworthy of this victory?
Go ahead, Parker.
The only other thing about Blake did add about the drops, that one thing that was kind of concerning me, in addition, even with those drops, 12 different people from Missouri caught a pass.
Yeah.
So that is definitely something to shore up a little bit more. But I did not catch anything post-game that really intrigued me.
No, I just hope that we don't try to creep into the Milton game again. Like I said, I think Hendon Hooker has proven that this is his team now.
Yeah. Great job. Great win by the UT Vols. We're moving on to the Florida Gators. They had an away game at vaunted Kroger Field in Kentucky. And for the first time since 1986, the Gators lose a football game in Kentucky, 20-13. Blake, this game was just riddled with penalties. They had, believe it or not, 8 false starts. What in the world?
15 penalties for 115 yards. That is the stat that I'm focusing on there. Look, the stats, the way the stats read on the box score, they're all in Florida's favor. But it's always the little things when it comes down to two teams that seem to always play each other tough. I mean, I don't know why Florida has some sort of mental block against Kentucky every year, but it just seems to always happen. I mean, I think Emory Jones played a kind of an okay game. I wouldn't say he did too much to hurt the team. He threw an interception, but the reality is Kentucky's defense is really kind of the story here. I mean, how many? I can't even remember how many. Would they have 8 stops inside the 10 or something like that? Incredible,
Yes.
Incredible.
And Brad, you mentioned that they had 8 false start penalties up until their last 2 drives. They had no more than 7 plays in one drive. And the stops that Kentucky was getting, I was just blown away by this game. I really thought Florida was going to come out and just beat this team by like 20 points.
Yeah.
But just absolutely wrong that Kentucky, Blake's right. Kentucky made the stops inside the 10, which changed the game, which makes me think, what's Florida doing when it comes to these short yardage situations? You have a chance to score and just dominate this team. You have a chance for 2-point conversions at Alabama and screw it up. And I also took for granted that this was Florida's first game outside of Florida this year,
I didn't know that.
Which is huge. I mean, your first real road test is always more difficult, and I wish I would have thought about that a little bit more when we were handicapping this, because I think that would have played more into it for me.
Yeah, their only road game this year was a game played in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium where the Bucks play. That's where they played University of South Florida, but literally every game that they played has been in the state of Florida until this one.
Gotcha.
So, maybe leading to that, I hate the little clap instead of the traditional, calling for the snap. I don't know if that had something to do with it. I can't imagine that Kroger Field was so loud that they had to go silent there, Blake.
I can't imagine either, with Florida being the type of team that plays with the likes of Tennessee, Alabama, playing in their stadiums, playing in the swamp with 90 plus, 100 plus thousand in all these stadiums. I can't imagine that going to Kentucky and going to Kroger Field that they feel like they need to go some kind of silent count or a clap count. But even if they do, I just can't imagine that that's something that's really screwing them up so bad that it would cause that many false starts. I just can't.
Well, I mean, it's either philosophy or game plan for that specific game or just simply their offensive line.
Well, I mean,
it's not good.
Hey, so everybody picks on Florida for throwing shoes. Kind of screwed them that year. And now we get a game here against Kentucky, 15 penalties for 115 yards. Is there a discipline problem here? Is this a discipline problem that Dan Mullen has? Is it a systemic problem?
I just want to go out and say that as much as I don't like Kentucky, I'm down on them year after year after year. I just got to say it. I think Stoops is just awesome. I mean, he must just be a hell of a game planner, because Kentucky gets no talent. There's nobody going there to play football over just about anybody else in the SEC other than Vandy, and they're beating Florida and they're undefeated. He just must be so much better than what I've thought he was. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that Stoops is just a genius.
Well, I will give it to Mark Stoops. I mean, I think he's a great coach. I really do. I don't know if he's a great X's and O's guy, but I think he just finds a way to get his players to play for him. I mean, he just knows how to motivate them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I liked watching the most about Kentucky is still their running back, Rodriguez. The quarterback, I don't think much of anymore for Kentucky. But honestly, guys, I mean, Florida's season's over. That's 2 losses. They've been reduced down to nothing more than a spoiler at this point.
Yeah, well, this is part of the reason it's harder to watch college football and really kind of really get ingrained in picking a winning team.
I mean, and they've still got some tough games left. I mean, they've still got to play. I mean, I know LSU's down, but they do have LSU on the schedule. They've got Georgia on the schedule.
Yeesh.
I know Florida State is just awful, but that's a rivalry game. You never know what happens. I mean, they've at least got one more loss you would look at on the schedule going forward. Do the players, Brad, you'd be able to respond to this better. It's kind of like Clemson. Do they just quit because now it's like, well, screw it, we're not going to the SEC championship?
I think that when you're dealing with college kids, my fear is that they might think that. So that comes right back to Coach Mullen here. Blake is a little concerned that there's not discipline within the program. So I would be afraid of it as the Gator fan. My question to both of you was going to be, hey, since it's mathematically probably over, do we just move on from Emory Jones now, as well as he played against UT? Do we just let's get Richardson going full time?
I mean, I think there's an argument there, I guess, but I don't know if it's worth blowing a kid's eligibility on half of a lost season. That's my opinion. I think you let Emory Jones finish the year.
I would agree. And Richardson played in the game and didn't do anything amazing. I think he had one pass and like 20, 25 yards rushing. It wasn't like he was coming off the bench looking amazing. Emory Jones has been good this year. This is just the game that he was bad in. And they just couldn't score. It wasn't like they couldn't move this ball. The box score shows that Florida should have won this game. They just couldn't get it in the end zone. Emory's been playing well.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, they get a get-right game when they host Vanderbilt this week. But we'll talk about that later this week. Any final thoughts about Gators going down?
No, not really.
Does this bring up old Dan Mullen leaving for the NFL? I know that was the hot rumor last season.
Never know. There might be another opening in the state of Florida in the NFL.
Oh, God. Yeah, we'll get
Just
to that
saying.
on a different reaction show.
Oh, God, I'm excited.
Just saying. Y'all need to tune in for our NFL reaction show. That's going to be fire.
I mean, you got spice from every angle coming, boys and girls. We're going to talk about the Titans losing to the Jets. We're going to talk about the Jaguars looking good on the field, but looking quite questionable off the field, amongst other things. But, yeah, stay tuned for that. But let's just tiptoe around the league real quick. Blake, we're going to go to a team that Daddy predicted. Cincinnati goes into Notre Dame and gets that victory.
Cincinnati went in there and got that ass. I mean, this is another one of those games, you're looking at the box score. I mean, it's a pretty good game. Honestly, pretty evenly matched. I mean, but the reality is Cincinnati came in with a chip on their shoulder, like I thought they would. I think they're tired of being, the team that plays second fiddle. Parker mentioned on our last podcast, this is to determine which one of these teams has a chance to go into the college football playoff. And I think Cincinnati might have just done it for themselves right here on this game alone. Because, I mean, as we talked about on our prediction show, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they have much more left as far as difficult games.
No, they don't. They only had two difficult games. They played Indiana and then Notre Dame, and everybody else was a cupcake.
No, this was it. Yeah, this was definitely it. We mentioned it on the prediction show. If they could get past this Notre Dame game, it's nothing but conference games from here on out. They've got the table set, man. I think they're in line for one of the 4 spots.
I agree.
I will push back on that. I think they had to win this game to have a chance to get into it.
True.
Yeah,
but,
I agree with that.
But I don't see them getting in as much as I want them to. I mean, I want chaos. Bring it on. But I see the committee taking a 1-loss Ohio State team or a 1-loss Oklahoma team or a 1-loss Oklahoma State team. You know, you go down the list of, do they pick a team that plays 2 Power 5 games and one of them's a down Indiana team and one of them's, Notre Dame, who gets crushed every year in the college football playoffs? I would love it. I just think it's too good to be true.
As much as I hate to admit it, you're probably right.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is Parker going to admit that Iowa's good yet? Because we're going to talk about Iowa taking care of Maryland.
No, I will not admit Iowa's good. Iowa is not good. Look at the numbers. Iowa is ranked in the same efficiency offensively as Vanderbilt. Up until the last game, they had like 2.7 yards per play. Yes, they finally showed up offensively. Thank God, because I watch every snap of every one of these games of where I'm in an Iowa household, because it's just awful. It is awful to watch. But I put it out there on Twitter that Iowa, yes, they are good defensively. I'll give you that. They're top 10 defensively, but they're not the greatest defense of all time in the history of college football. They are the luckiest team I've ever seen in the history of college football. Every single week, they get turnovers are different. If they're at the 50 or at the 5, they get turnovers inside the 10 constantly. Maryland, they finally play a team that could maybe beat them. Who knows? Best player goes out when it's a 3-point game, and he hands them 7 points. It's just unbelievable to me the luck this team rolls in. This team reminds me of Notre Dame in years past. If they get to play with the big boy, they're going to lose by 30.
Blake, it was 7-3 Maryland after the first quarter, and then Iowa scores 31 in the second.
Man, I can't believe that Iowa's any good. I just can't. I don't have enough respect for them offensively. Like Parker said, I get it on the defensive side. I get it, but defense will get you to the dance. But if you run across a really good offense, I think a defense gets neutralized, quite frankly, particularly whenever that defense is not an SEC defense. So I'm not convinced on the Iowa Hawkeyes at all. So, not buying it.
All right.
One other thing about Maryland, Iowa, I should tell you, Tua, Tagovailoa, going into this game has not had one pass that was turnover worthy. Not one. He is the number 1 quarterback in the country in that stat. Coming out of the Iowa game, he led all of college football in interceptions. That's how. I mean, I know Iowa's good defense is good, but they're not that good.
Yeah, I mean, undefeated. You'll continue to get that pushback on Twitter.
Bring it.
But Parker says, "Bring it." What about Harbaugh? Harbaugh broke a trend. He brought it. He brought it to Wisconsin in a 38-17 victory. This game was very close at half, 13-10, and then Parker, Michigan pulls away.
Yeah, first time Harbaugh's won a game on the road where he's not favored at since he's been in Michigan. But you know what? I still believe in this Michigan team. I don't think they're that good either. Wisconsin just sucks. Their quarterback, Graham Mertz, is awful. I just don't. My pick on Michigan wasn't picking Michigan. Mine is fading Wisconsin.
I am so tired of hearing about both of these teams. All you ever hear about is how great either one of these teams are. Wisconsin's good this year. Michigan's gonna, this is gonna be their year. Harbaugh's got it. Well, dude, they never end up doing anything. And when it comes to nut cutting time, they can't get it done. So until they start doing something that is noteworthy other than just beating each other, I don't want to hear this shit anymore. As far as I'm concerned, both of these teams are as irrelevant as a Kentucky team in the SEC.
Yeah, I'm not buying it either. And another team I'm about to discuss, I haven't bought them all year. How Oklahoma continues to escape is amazing. They squeak out another one, 37-31 over Kansas State.
Kansas State usually beats them. I mean, these are always close games. But you're right, Oklahoma. I don't have this on top of my head. I wish I did. I don't think they've covered a spread all year. I don't. Maybe against. Now I'm looking for schedule. Yeah, they did against whoever the heck this team is. Western Carolina. They beat 76-0, so they covered that one. But all the other ones, they did not. And I'm really looking forward, man. I think this Texas team is live against Oklahoma because Spencer Rattler looks terrible.
Yeah, again, Oklahoma. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling great about this team coming to the SEC and having any kind of success. I'm looking at this box score. It could have just very easily gone to Kansas State, quite frankly, and it's kind of difficult for me to swallow that a number 6 team could have fell so easily to an unranked team.
Looking at these box scores all year with Oklahoma, do either one of you think that he's still the favorite for the Heisman?
No. In fact, I was looking at that today. He is now down to 15-1 for Heisman, which I would not take. At all. The favorite is Bryce Young. But, the last game at home against West Virginia, they were booing him and chanting the backup's name. It's just the thing about Oklahoma, though. You've got to be careful. Is they do have the talent, unlike Kentucky. They do have it. If they get it together, they could beat anyone theoretically. The problem is Rattler's like, hey, I'm going to be in the NFL next year. If I lose a game, I got this NIL money. Like, I'm out of here. Peace out. He just may not care.
Well, it sure seems like it by his production on the field.
Yeah, I think if Oklahoma keeps playing on the edge like this, they will fall. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
There was a top 3 team that did fall, though, this past weekend. Number 3, Oregon, went on the road to Stanford and lost in a pretty exciting game, a little overtime game, a 31-24 Stanford, Parker.
Yeah, man, this was my pick. I just was absolutely wrong on this one. Looking at the numbers, I don't know how Oregon just didn't run it down their throats the whole game and didn't and win by 20. Stanford came to play, and then Oregon gave up an awful drive at the end for it to tie it, even go into overtime. It's just this conference just isn't very good. Anybody can beat anybody in this conference, and I'm just staying away from anything with them anymore.
I'm kind of with you there. I just think it's kind of there's just a large group of teams, and maybe they all should form their own giant conference. Maybe, right? You're either with us or against us, right? Well, guess what? All y'all can be against us because y'all can just go beat shit out of each other, and we don't really give a damn because I think you're a second tier conference. So,
hey Blake, do you give a damn about number 25 Clemson winning 19-13 over BC?
Who is that? I don't know if I know who that is. Who? Clarkson?
It's a struggling program without ETN and Trevor Lawrence.
You think of. I don't know how else to say it. We've been talking about it the last couple weeks. This program is roughly the same minus a few, key people like Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. Before that, it was Deshaun Watson. You take those exceptional players away, and now you're left with a program that, quite frankly, kind of looks like it can't put one foot in front of the other. I mean, I would call this victory against Boston College, this is unimpressive. Just unimpressive altogether. I mean, DJ, he's clearly turned out not to be the guy that everybody thought he was. I mean, they had really hoped that he was going to be the next Trevor Lawrence or the next, Deshaun Watson. But it's not happening for him. I mean, I would call this pedestrian. That's what I would call it.
Yeah, they're not good. They haven't covered in 3 straight games. If you fade Clemson right now, you'd be rich every time you bet against them. The offensive line is absolutely awful. The bigger question I have isn't really about Clemson. It does go back and look at that Georgia victory now, though, 10-3. Like, that doesn't look that impressive to me. That actually is what raises more of a question to me about Clemson looking bad than it does about Clemson. They're awful, though. They are just dreadful.
Yeah. A darling out west goes down. I believe, yes, I did. I predicted this. Arizona State, a late night game. It took, I think most of us were probably asleep, but they ended up winning 42-23 over the Bruins. Parker, poor UCLA, their season is just as over as the Gators.
It is, but they're going to still play upset next week. They've got a big game, and Arizona State's good. Us on the East Coast and Central Time Zone, we don't see these games because they're so freaking late. That's why you can't win a Heisman playing out west, because it comes on at 11 o'clock at night in Eastern Time Zone, and nobody sees it that votes for the stinking award. But Arizona State's good. They're well coached. They're fun to watch for as long as I can stay awake for the games.
Yeah, I don't know much about Arizona State, but it kind of seems like there could be something there. I mean, their numbers look pretty good here in the box score, but I mean, here we go again. Another one of those teams out west in that conference. Just, everybody loves them. They're all going to be great. Yeah, Chip Kelly, yada, yada. Who cares, man? You haven't done anything. Go beat somebody first that's outside of your second tier conference.
And you're right. They're going to eat each other. They got Oregon. That's the one I'm kind of thinking about. That's a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll bring it back to this conference, the conference. Let's get back into SEC. Alabama continues to win 42-21, doubling up Lane Kiffin.
Man, oh man. We ask this all the time. Is it even fun for the Alabama folks? I mean, do Alabama fans even really go to the stadium? Do they care? Or do they just kind of wait for the box score to come out? And I don't know. I don't know what all that's like, just because being a Tennessee fan, we haven't had that luxury in a long time.
Parker, I'd say that they love it. This is their only team in that state. I think they absolutely eat up every single minute of killing other college football teams.
Yeah, the only 2 teams they've got is Alabama football and Kentucky basketball in the state of Alabama. So they absolutely do love it. But the big thing that came out for me on this game was Alabama. Brad, you're going to love this one. Got back to Alabama and they established the run. And 210 rushing yards versus 78. So they shut them down. Alabama finally looked good that way. Alabama punted this one time. They played a great game plan. I mean, obviously, the best college coach of all time. They kept the ball out of Ole Miss's hands. They tried to eat up some clock. And it was just, I mean, I'm looking at time possessions, 37 minutes to 20, or 38 minutes to 22 minutes. It was perfect. I don't know what the hype on Ole Miss beating this Alabama team really was all about. And Alabama stays perfect. Saban 24-0 against his assistants.
Hard to bet against the guy.
No, it was very impressive. And after coming off of an impressive victory last week, Georgia, Arkansas, we thought would be a little back and forth, but Georgia again proves they're just in another atmosphere. They're in a different class, Parker. 37-0.
Right now, if you want to bet, you can bet Alabama and Georgia to win the national championship versus the field. You would have to play $24 to win $10. to take Alabama and Georgia, wanted them to win it versus everyone else in college football. That's how far above they are. And this Arkansas team, their run offense is just incredible. And Georgia gave up like 160 total yards. I tweeted it out in the middle of the first quarter because it was on this pace. If Georgia would have just kept doing what they did in the first quarter, they would have beat Arkansas more than they beat Vandy.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was less of a case of Arkansas not being what we thought they were. It was more of Georgia is just in that elite level right now, and there's only two teams right now, let's not make any bones about it, that are in that class right now, and that is Alabama and Georgia for sure. I mean, it's crazy to even look at these box scores.
They didn't even have their starting quarterback. JT Daniels didn't even play. Stetson Bennett threw for 70 yards, and they won 37-0.
Yep.
So they get Bennett back. Daniels back. I mean, they're going to be. They were my pick for national championship, and I'm sticking there. I don't see any reason to change off of them. They are just got to get the monkey of Alabama off their back. And again, both those teams, I don't see how they don't play for the SEC championship, and I don't think it matters who wins. They're both going to that.
Nope.
To it.
One of those two teams are going to be the ones that are going to play for the championship for sure.
I mean, it's amazing. You've got all these other colleges and conferences saying, well, that's that's half of the college playoffs right there. Well, yeah, it is, because they're the two best teams in college.
I beg to differ for them too. I tend to think that it's the only games in college that matter. It's the only teams.
And my argument to that would be, they're taking half the spots at 4. If you expanded it to 12, guess what? They're going to be taking half the spots.
Yep. We'd have about 4 to 8 more teams that are going to get in at that point.
Well, I definitely know a team that will not be there after I thought they would. Blake stayed on the train, the Texas A&M train. They lose again, Blake, and you predicted it.
You know, guys, I mean, Daddy had a feeling. And Daddy's had a lot of feelings here lately. Every now and then I have some indigestion. But for the most part, my feelings have been pretty spot on. I think that now we have 100% proven Texas A&M to be fraudulent. I mean, my God, it's just horrible to even think about how good we all thought they were going to be. And now, I mean, I'm actually surprised that they scored 22 points. I really am. But I mean, looking at the box score, it just looks like one touchdown and a bunch of freaking field goals. And you're not going to beat anybody doing that.
Yeah. Calzada's no good. This offense is no good. They can't do anything. My question to this team is, they begged for Jimbo Fisher. They wanted him. They went out and got him before this year started. They signed him to an extension. You can't get rid of him.
Nope.
His contract is a $90 million contract. You know how much of it's guaranteed?
Is it all of it?
It's all of it. It's all of it. So they're stuck with it. It's a lot like Gruden with the Raiders. Like, you can't get rid of the guy because it's just too freaking expensive. So Jimbo's going to be there until Jimbo doesn't want to be there. And this team's still good defensively, fairly good, but their offense is just so bad, and they've got to find a quarterback. It's no fun to watch. It's like watching Iowa.
Bye, Texas A&M. I really have nothing more to say about you. I will give you no more of my attention.
Unless he just wants to continue to pick on you in his picks. But Bo Nix, that's a bounce back game, right? He comes out and beats LSU. He can put that in his resume forever.
Bo Nix looked great. He is the most unbelievable quarterback to either be the most pile of trash quarterback or like the best guy in college football. It's so hard to predict what they're going to do, but he looks fantastic, and is Coach O on. You hate to say that Coach O's on the hot seat a year removed from winning the national championship, but it might be.
Yeah, well, I'm still not a big Bo Nix guy. I don't think that he's a very good quarterback. I mean, he was still only 23 of 44. It's not like he lit the world on fire with his passing performance. He just happens to have a set of legs on him that can move pretty fast, too, with 74 rushing yards. So, I mean, look, they got the job done. They went into a place that's hard to play at in Death Valley, and they got it done. I mean, there's nothing else to say. I mean, I also said that I thought this was going to be a down year for LSU, and I think that trend is continuing, and it's proven to be factual.
Well, they got it done, and another team that got it done, last but not least, West End. Parker, tell us about the celebration at Vanderbilt.
I'll tell you what, pandemonium reigns on West End. I just Vanderbilt being UConn, one of the worst teams in football. In fact, this is the Super Bowl of toilet bowls coming up. It's going to be UConn versus UMass this year, and I don't know who won a game last. But Vanderbilt's favored by 14, which whoever took that's a psychopath for Vanderbilt being favored by 14 over anybody. But hey, I'm sticking with it. Vanderbilt's 2-3, y'all. I mean, if I would have told you that before the season, I think Vanderbilt would have thrown a party on campus. I mean, 2-3.
Dude, I mean, look, nobody is throwing parties for beating teams the likes of UConn. First off, UConn had 523 yards of total offense. There is nothing for them to be proud of. Vanderbilt only had 439. I mean, this was a shootout. This was a pool noodle situation, guys. For those of y'all don't know, that's an inside joke, and I'm not going to tell it on YouTube. But the reality is this was two very, very bad teams playing. Congratulations, I guess, Vanderbilt. But, I mean, this is nothing to celebrate here.
No, but what I'm saying is it is, because the Vanderbilts of old, even against a terrible team, would just come out and be like, they would not win. They would not win this game. They would find a way to lose this game. Instead, they hit and they were down. It wasn't like they had to hold on. They were down. They had to hit a field goal to win the game. Anything Vanderbilt does, they're just so bad that anything positive they can do seems to be they all seem to celebrate, because they're just. I mean, we know how bad they are.
Yeah, just take whatever you can get, I guess.
Exactly. Just build on anything.
And Vandy will take this momentum into Gainesville and try to ruin a homecoming.
Jeez.
I don't even know what the line on that game is.
They may not even make one. It'd be so ridiculous. Nobody believe it.
Go Vandy. I mean, dude, I think that we expected them to be 3-2, though, as crazy as that sounds, because just looking at the schedule, lined up to be a 3-2 start, and then I don't think we had them winning anything after that.
All right.
I'm still saying they're going to beat South Carolina.
Wow. Well, goodness gracious, guys. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today on our college football reaction show. Be sure to go check us out on Twitter at DDS Sports Talk and leave us a comment. Like our YouTube videos, subscribe to our channel. Tell us what your thoughts are on all the pandemonium that's been happening over the last couple of weeks with college football. Any parting thoughts, guys?
Anchor down.
I hate it that the Gator season is over.
Go Big Orange. You all be well.